Hello everyone. I would like to talk about today a very interesting concept, what I like to call ephemeral companions, because throughout this life we are present in the lives of many and many are present in the lives of us. We are social creatures, and so when you become sensitive to your moment, let's say from a certain amount of deep self-contemplative observance of yourself, you will see that the significance of most of your acts has the moment present. So the awareness to the present moment is what you hold in common with all that you know, in a sense. All conceptions, there is a sense of being present in all of them, because simply there is a moment of existence for you. Now, ephemeral companion suggests how when we become again sensitive to this sense of moment of our being, we see that life is moving on and we're involved in many stories. So what that means is that we are certain characters in the stories of others and others are certain characters in our story. But we want everyone to get an awareness of the storyteller in the sense that they can experience beyond their characteristics which are usually defined as limited because based on the practice of man. So you will find yourself at times in certain teams, groups. Think of all those groups that you were in, for example, school. Now, you will find yourself in moments of life where it is up to you to choose how much you want to see life is with you or life is without you. What that means is there have been moments in my life where have I observed who I am and I have not been with myself. What that means is that I've been more my attention has been more focused on the fact that I had a lack of companionship. So the consideration of a lack of companionship created a sense of hollowness, but a hollowness which I was not comfortable with. So sometimes, let's say someone we love that just suddenly leaves our life, for example. Or let's say we're confronted with the death of a loved one. Suddenly that character is out of our story, and so our story is a bit more empty. And we wonder, is this story really this? Is life all about what I'm thinking when people can die? And so you see that the human being is very fragile in the sense that there are many human beings dying every day and many human beings at the same time being born. So there's a fragile sense of destruction or deconstruction and a fragile sense of construction in regards to how human progress is flowing. Now, engagement is very important because that is what companionship is really. Because when you are someone else's greatest companion, you are totally for them. You are completely there present in allowing them to get to where their inspiration is calling them towards. So similarly, we want to see that ephemeral companions is sometimes, it can go more than just how the moment is. It can go more than just your synchronicity. It simply becomes that some being is present to guide you in this reality. Similar to how, as if in your moment, even though you're aware of physical reality and more cellular senses of it as well, you see that even in a multidimensional sense of conception, there are guides, there's energy, there's more attention and intention that will be given to you by your collective sense of knowing, rather than your individuality, when your individuality recognizes the presence of the collective that is always there. Because that is how you're individual. Because everything else is out there. That's how we're defining it. So it's very important to see how it is up to you to see whether life is with you, and in a sense that you are seeking, or you are not seeking, but in a sense you see the value of any involvement with you in your moment of awareness as companionship. And so it's instant, it comes and goes. We see that there are certain things that we gotta let go. I believe it is in more the Buddhist tradition that they say, I'm not sure of the accurate quote, but what they suggest is that there are many companions in your life, and if you have a good one, cherish that moment, but recognize it's an individual walk. You know, you're climbing on the mountain on your own, and so it's very important for you to be aware of where the significance is. If the significance is on form, you will constantly see new forms. But if the significance is on the observer of form, then you see the significance cannot be, your existential significance cannot be one that is just limited to, for example, ideology, names. You begin seeing, wait a minute, who was I after my name was in a sense gone? So you look at different realms and you feel the soil. You wonder whether you are too like the seed who is sprouting into new understanding and new dimensions of conception and acknowledgement. In a sense, you are. Because what we see is that life is involved with itself. And so because it is, you are not growing separate to anyone else. So in other words, it's as if like we're all turning on the same moon. So similarly, there's certain streams, there's certain rhythms of existential being that you would find, you just, I don't want to say resonate because that concept will soon change, but in a sense, you align with, let's say. And what that really means is how you're handling your mental, or how you're handling your observance of form, and how that is implying a greater, let's say, opening of spectrum for you. Regardless, every moment there's an ephemeral companion, and really begin seeing how life is with you. It is very important. You see, we hold certain values for our imagery. And then when we interact with that imagery, sometimes we hold extremely a lot of value. Let's say you were punched, and so every time you see a punch, oh, you feel the pain, right? Or psychologically, you just feel a bit more alarmed. And so regardless of how you're being conditioned, you need to see that you need to allow a part of yourself to just continue as it is. So it's like you're this self-awareness to this physicality, and you weren't always self-aware of it. When you were a kid, maybe perhaps your intelligence was functioning in a different way. But now that you're self-aware of it, it's one of those things that you're also going to step out of conscious view of this vehicle. So what that means is that even though it is your car and it exists for you, but you know, you're going to step out of your car and go home and visit your family. You know, you get to see that it is your metaphors and imagery that is really keeping people separate from you, because there's no need for hate when there was nothing to hate. So there's always a significance in self-understanding. And for example, in a lot of writing that I've done, but in general in anything that I've created, there was an attitude that I had before where my creativity was a bit limited, and then it changed. And so what really changed was my trust in life. When your trust in life increases, you trust also the rhythms, designs, and actions and movements of physical reality, and even what is keeping it there. So once you understand the movement of how you're aware of form and how that's transitioning, your understanding exceeds beyond your ability to communicate it through terminology in a sense to create a sense of rationality within culture. It is one of those things where if culture is deciding to acknowledge these things, and my being is deciding to acknowledge this kind of reality, then me and culture in a sense cannot be aligned unless there is an existential allowance for a co-creation where every moment which something is bothering you, are at the same time finding the joy in it as well. So then you navigate more comfortably through any sense of constraint in regards to shape, because you're in awareness of bound shape. And my writing, in a sense, became something where I recognize once you create something here, because your mind is changing, your work will seem new to you. So in a sense, it was communicated to me very innately, just as if I just knew it, that what I was creating, based on the significance and intention that I had put into writing, it was alive. So what that means, the imagery in the work will teach you as you grow. So if you think that your best work is hiding, or you haven't found it yet, it's because your work now is not still complete. So there are sometimes we get awareness of greater things. What that means is that you go and that moment comes where you see the restaurant and the light for the open and close sign is not on. So you're just standing there and wondering, is it on or not? And you see that you need to go check because there seems to be a light on, and then you go check and suddenly you see it's open. So it's very important for you to recognize that that same relationship is in how we are engaging with reality, in which one aspect of us is simply assuming what the experience, and another aspect is responding to that experience, and another aspect is simply just the experience of it. So there are many layers to how we perceive reality. In other words, it is still a very new concept to man, and it needs to brew for a while, but many people cannot comprehend how a different presence in one dimension can be the significance of your presence in this dimension. In the sense that perhaps 3 people in a room were in a sense defining one person in a room. In the sense that you're recognizing that geometry, for example, many people are opening up to the significance of sacred geometry, but now by allowing that and bringing geometry and let's say these very let's say intricate imagery in front of your lens of consciousness, in other words, just in front of your awareness, you will see that you're learning from life on such sensitive levels that you just need to be aware of who you are, and you will just be, in a sense, found in the flow of your greater knowing. What that means is that the intelligence of this reality knew something, and that's why you're here. So you're here based on some knowing that you're here. Psychology is not really something that man should look at too long, because the minute you do, you'll be, in a sense, constrained to how you're interpreting your own interpretation, and you will feel inactive. You see, we are suggesting how much certainty and uncertainty the moment is communicating to us, because it's simply how we're becoming aware of it. So let's say with the way you sleep and when you open your eyes, you're still in your bed. So what that means is that regardless of if you get suddenly a crazy dream, you're still in your bed when you wake up. So what that means is that you need to have an ability to cherish and appreciate and be compassionate to different senses and subtleties of your own experience, in the sense that you're allowing all of it to be a self-communication of a greater intelligence with all that you know. So what that means is that man has his search of clarity turn very natural and elegant when he wonders what clarity even means and where it comes from. And so the significance of the moment changes, where there are even times that you will feel that people are against you. Somehow your psychology, your mind, the way thoughts are coagulating in how you're interpreting in that moment, it gives you this understanding that life is against you. No one's acknowledging you with the same amount of beauty that you acknowledge certain people, for example, your partner or something, right? So you see that there is this difference in how we are viewing things from different aspects, different considerations of self. And so as the self is, in a sense, working with different environments, or is based on different environments or different conceptions of space and time, so you will see in an instant man has an ability to reset his in a sense, view of clarity and, in a sense, quality of experience. Because it's like you suddenly become aware of the table and you don't need to associate with the junk. And what the junk is really is your own voice, which you think is yours, but is actually not. No statement is yours. No sound is just yours when other people can make that sound. So we see that it is complexity that restricts, because it accepts an intricate spectrum that space and time and many rules need to be, in a sense, made for there to be certainty. But nonlinear intelligence and your collective consciousness, in a sense, acknowledges all that you are, but through a sense of transcendent view, where you see that, okay, you're not, it's like, it's not a video game, it's not a fantasy thing, it's just that your sense of intuition, that trust you have in life, is giving you such a trust where you see, wait a minute, you're not trusting life, you're trusting the origin of your awareness, your experience. You are the driver of your experience in this reality. And so you suddenly begin to appreciate, wow, that I am creating on so many levels of consideration, that before I even wonder how much I can run or from what angle I can shoot the soccer ball, I have considered the world to be here, I have considered the field to be there, and I have considered my foot to be there, I have considered bodies, and so these are all kept stable. What is keeping the stability of your thoughts considering this? How is your thoughts not a chaotic system? Where is the intelligence and order? And man looks to nature to understand it, and then when he tries to interpret nature in a way where he's bringing it down to his level, he cannot. So you either step down and be completely solid, or you allow yourself to experience yourself more than your ideas. That means don't even listen to any ideology. In other words, you will see that you're tired of reading books because symbols, you're putting the meaning in them. And how much do you want to constantly see like the same patterns, when at some times you are required to go through greater experiences to view those old patterns in new ways? What that means is someone in the beginning of their life will go through a very intense and harsh experience. If they choose to handle it by not acknowledging it and ignoring their past, they in a sense are still keeping that program alive. So you will see that some point in your life something would happen to you and you're going to be like, oh gosh, it's because of this trauma that happened. Not really. It's because of how you were aware to then be kept that it happened. So don't judge your awareness, don't judge how you're alive, but be it, experience it directly in a very blissful and pleasant way, because when you do, you become your greatest observance. And so what that means is that you do not just observe the ideas about you, you do not just observe the physicality about you, you observe all of these in such subtle walks where it's as if you are walking on an invisible staircase where each step is another room of your conception of space and time. So when creation recognizes the ability of creator, the conception of space and time become much more lucid, because in another dynamic you are the creator of your creation here. What that means is that the inspiration that brings form into being is connected to all that form can be. So don't think that it's not drawn with the same color, with that one color which is the oneness of nothingness which many meditators experience, and in a sense many people do at certain moments of their life. It is very significant that you give yourself existential permission. And what that means is that you're going to look at yourself in the mirror sometimes and some days, and you're going to suddenly see that, wait a minute, this guy can't do that. This guy's too tired to go out. This guy is doing this. And so based on one aspect of awareness to imagery, you choose how you are. So the reason I'm suggesting this is that when you see that imagery is just imagery, how you're acknowledging reality doesn't have to be in the specific way you are. So in other words, there's a moment where you will see the pattern which you think is keeping your reality certain based on your ideology, based on your belief, will be disbelieved by you because you're going through a new dimension and a new sense of spiraling pattern of awareness. So it's very playful. It's as if like the same words no longer mean the same suddenly when a new idea enters, new imagery comes into your mind. So one aspect, our knowledge, wisdom, and views are constantly amplifying. They're constantly being fed into more meaning by the meaning that we see. So every day you're living, you're being more aware of who's living, because you have more imagery to work with, you have more experiences, more things to consciously be aware of. So when man is seeing that he is simply awareness to memory, where is he that awareness? And it is in the present moment. And so you will always find that the greatest companions are ephemeral. The greatest teachers are ephemeral because they will dissolve you into your greater being. So what that means is that the teacher walks beside you and you're like, where are we going? And he's not speaking. And you're saying, where are we going? And it's your own curiosity and your own trust in life that you follow them. And suddenly when he looks at you, he says, I am you. And you suddenly realize how you were creating the dynamic that you were a student that did not have. So when life gives you a very huge sense of havingness, in other words, you close your eyes and you just feel a blissful, ecstatic experience. Or as the poet Rumi said, you're the universe in ecstatic motion. When you get that experience, suddenly as an individuality becoming aware of your more collective sense of being, your collective nature, you don't change in the way that man understands change. You change in dimensions of awareness to self. Because self-activation requires an inspiration for you to see through your own greater eye. And so man is not lost when he is always found. And ephemeral companions are reminders of how you always can. So you will always move on through and within and beyond all that is in front of you. Because the minute you recognize the self-awareness that gives you your transcendent view, the need for companion would be just a very deep experience of your moment, which is seeking for the truth of truths, which is looking for the presence in all personalities, and you will find it once you have found yourself within all things. The nature of your mind is clear. And in its emptiness, you will truly understand the meaning of direct experience. And after, when you open your eyes, could they have ever been closed? Much blessings and namaste.